T-Force. Welcome to the rework of the T-Force. Now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and cats from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like brand, practicing his dot game. Give it to you easy like you're Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time. Now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times. But manlier, knock it up like now fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call. Can a podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Potophobia Cogswell, and I am back to host the podcast to make sure it doesn't go to shit like it did last week. From what I hear,
I blame Shira. It was totally Shira's fault.
I did everything perfectly. Nothing went wrong. It was awesome. Nothing could have been done better.
Punchinello sent me a haiku. It was something about Shira fucked up. He's the worst in the world. Fire him from the show.
I think you made that up.
Apparently, it wasn't a good enough haiku because Shira's still here.
Yeah,
that was like 475 or 477.
Have
so
as much impact as it was supposed to have.
Yeah, I'm like 80% sure you made that up.
Well, see, there's at least that 20% there that you have to really think about it tonight. You're gonna go back through all your emails and everything, and you're not gonna.
Oh yeah, I've got an archive of them. Gotta make sure it's not in there.
Well, guys, you are listening to episode number 205 of the Trinity Force Podcast. I have a number of topics to go through before we get into the main pieces. As you see, DeClaude is not here. He's having internet issues. But Pebbles is sitting on Shira Jaden's shoulders. So if you want to see Pebbles, please go to YouTube.
Look at this adorable little critter. Hiding.
You go to youtube.com/T-Force Podcast to check that out. Guys, first and foremost, there is a Gatherer's Granola giveaway going on Facebook. So please go to facebook.com/T-Force Podcast to check that out. You can win 6 bags of Gatherer's Granola. And if you guys heard us talking about that about 20 episodes ago, it's the best granola you will ever eat. Cheer up.
I agree with that. I am a big proponent of Gatherers because of how delicious it is.
Right. So you sign up. You can also win $10 in RP. You're gonna win all this 6 bags of granola, $10 in RP, and a T-Force T-shirt, open to the entire world. Except for if you're not in the United States, you don't get the granola, but you get everything else, which is fine. So go sign up. Facebook.com/T-Force Podcast. Click on the Tons of Granola link that is along the top. Put in your email address, like T-Force Podcast. Press enter. We promise we're not selling your email or anything. It's more for verification purposes. And we just need you to go sign up there. I think we have like 100 to 200 people already signed up. So, get in there and go win your stuff. That ends this Friday, the 31st. This Friday. So moving forward as well, I have another announcement to make. Battle Arena, which is EU West, North America, and Australia or Oceanic, as well as Bronze Boot Camp. That's 4 battle arenas. We're going to start giving away RP for each of those battle arenas every single week. T-Force Podcast is going to start supplying with at least $10 in RP every week, every other week. I said every week, but we're going to start giving away to you guys. It's an incentive to play, an incentive to come get better. Come in there, come make the best play you can make. Don't try to make flashy plays, even though you can win RP, because you're still trying to get them to learn. So get in there, listen to these games, check them out on YouTube, and you guys can win $10 in RP for just showing up. I think that's fucking awesome.
That is awesome.
Genius.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Right. So yeah, guys, thank you so much, for everything. And you know what? Donations, we have a few of them that came out, and I want to read them real quick. I Am Bad, I Feel Bad. He donated $20 to us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm Bad, I Feel Bad. And I will tell you
You're
guys,
not bad today.
You're the best today, and never forget it.
I do want to reassure people, if you donate, donations, unless stated otherwise, will not go for the Battle Arena stuff, okay? Or anything else. Donations go for just helping out the podcast. They go for server costs. They go for new microphones, like we got to buy Punch, microphone, webcam, and stuff. So donations go for that, I promise. As well, Nicholas donated $10 with a note. This show got me through my last job, and now I have a new job of double my salary, and I was about to get CS Shavana, or Championship Shavana, when I realized I could finally afford to give the show appreciation. So keep up the good work, and thank you for the sanity that you're providing me.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, thank you for donating, my friend.
And congratulations on the double salary job. That's fun.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's
Oh yeah.
pretty cool.
It's
Moving up.
fantastic.
Right. And make sure you tell all your coworkers about the Trinity Force Podcast.
Just make an announcement, send out a company email.
Right. Over the intercom. Guys, the Trinity Force Podcast is live. Everybody tune in to twitch.tv/T-Force Podcast. If you'd like to donate, go to the bottom of the page. There's a donation button. So that's it. Gatherers Granola Contest. Thank you for everybody who's donated. And don't forget Bronze Boot Camp. Other than that, go check out TrinityForcePodcast.com. 2 podcasts a week, 4 in total between the LCS Rundown and OzLOL. And we're going to move right into discussion. So, Days has been chomping at the bit for weeks and weeks and weeks. I'm just trying to really intro her to get her in here. We've had a couple requests for people they've really liked. They liked our Master Yi discussion. They really liked the Sona discussion, or excuse me, the Scion discussion. And they've asked us, hey, why don't you go pick another champion the show really likes to play and tell us how to play it? So I brought up the idea today to talk about Sona, and she has been messaging me like every day, like, Sona's so good. I went this today. She was like, I went like 2-1 and 27 or something silly.
Yeah,
Which is
it was great.
what a pretty big change in impression of the champion directly after the rework, and then they fixed a couple
I
things.
Well-
remember when I was still listening that Days, you didn't have that high of an opinion of her. I thought you were going to change support
Yeah.
section.
I have to tell you, honestly, if they hadn't changed her Q, my opinion wouldn't have changed. You weren't able to harass in lane, which is how I play her, and you kind of just became a heal bot, because if you went to harass and you went to auto or Q, you got chunked pretty hard, especially against like a Lucian or a Nami or anyone that has any sort of poke. You were pretty much done. So, yeah, I guess I'll start with what I run and how I play her, runes and masteries wise. Bear with me, because this is going to sound absurd to a lot of people, but it really does work. So after that preparation, what I run on her is I run hybrid pen runes for reds. I run health or armor yellows, depending on what I'm playing against. If I'm playing against like a Caitlyn or like a Caitlyn Thresh or a Lucian Thresh, then sometimes I just take the armor. And then, because that's the only defensive runes that I run, are my seals. So I either run armor or health in my seals, and then I run in my glyphs, I actually run ability power, and I run ability power in my quints also. So you end up with 5.5 magic pen, 8.1 armor pen, 26 ability power, and 72 health. I also run really, really aggressive runes. Masteries. I run 2307 on my masteries on her. And I know this sounds incredibly absurd because she has the health of a minion. But the idea behind this is that you bully them out of lane before they can touch you. Okay. So you have one of the strongest level 1s coming out of bot lane. You're going to hit, while you're in base, you actually charge your Q twice. And then you'll go help leash. You don't Q again when you're leashing for the jungler. You kind of ruin your level 1. So you're just going to auto attack the big minion for your jungler, and then you're going to go to lane. Once you get in lane, when you hit with that Q, I don't think people realize how hard she can hit, especially if you run her offensively. You can hit them with a Q and that charged auto on your power cord, and they're going to be missing 25 to 30% of their health off the bat. And then since you're running the armor pen, you can auto attack them, and you can do so at a pretty safe distance. When you get that first Q off, you can usually hit another couple Qs before level 2, but you want to be really careful because you don't have that power core to chunk them, so you kind of want to Q and then run out. And then once you hit level 2, you can be more aggressive because you have your heals, so you can heal whatever they've chunked you at, because you are going to take some damage. So it takes a lot of practice with positioning. Because if you are out of position and you go too far up, or if you get caught, you are going to die very, very quickly. But this does give you the ability to kind of make that impact in lane, and you become the lane bully that you used to be. And that's because she has a tremendous range. Like, her range is obnoxious. It actually feels longer than it used to be. And you can stay way out of tower range and Q and hit someone under tower. So there's really no safe place for Sona. She goes great with other poke champs. Like, if you take a Caitlyn and you can just shove them under tower and poke all day, it's obnoxious. I almost feel bad for the enemy team because they can't even see us under tower. It's just completely absurd.
Yeah, that's actually what we ran last week. Last Monday after the podcast, I played Caitlyn,
Right.
played Sona, and then we were poking them under the tower, and then you had some absurdly long Q auto attack that got the last hit on Lucian or something. I'm like,
Right.
whoa, I didn't know that. I don't know that was that far range. So
Now,
that was pretty intense.
with the old Sona, people. I used to play old Sona quite a bit, and I was extremely aggressive with her. I'd build some early AP, and I would just try and bully people out as much as possible. But against people who kind of knew how to deal with Sona, that old Q range, you could get yourself into some pretty sketchy spots if the other team just turned and kind of all into you. Would you say it's like easier now to be able to still poke from a safer position with the lengthened Q range, or in your opinion, is it about the same?
I think that it is a little bit easier to poke now because I do feel like the range has extended in her Q. So it is a little bit easier to position. You don't have to be as careful. I ran these same masteries and runes back before she had her rework, so it's not something you can only do now, but it does take a lot of practice to do. And you really need to make sure that you're standing. You want to be pretty close. You want to have those circles overlap with your ADC that we talked about a few episodes ago, because they need to be able to follow up when you're poking. So if they do decide to go on you, you have the ability to
have the ADC
turn
follow
around.
up, right?
Right, just turn it around. And the nice thing about her is you have the ability to chunk, and people underestimate her. Even in Plat, they just don't expect the damage. A lot of the supports that you see that run Sona will run very supportish type runes. They'll run utility masteries, and her damage isn't overwhelming at that point. It's a little bit of poke, and you're done. But in terms of that, I play her. She's actually my counter to Leona, which sounds ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
You can poke Leona down level 1 before she ever hits level 2, or her AD. So either you can poke Leona down before she goes in on you, and then when she goes in on you, you just kill her.
So
or
what is stopping us as a bottom lane? I'm just playing devil's advocate at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What is stopping us if I play someone like Thresh? I understand that Sona has the superior level 1 all the time. Like, ideally, I would say, 90% of the time, Sona should win that level 1 and should push you to the tower, should hit level 2 before you. But what is stopping us from playing safe until level 3 and then all in engaging?
Yeah.
Well, your range is so long that it's impossible for them to play safe and not zone themselves out.
But do you have to have an AD carry that understands how to manipulate waves properly? That's what I'm asking, because you could actually. I've seen it. I've played with you. You've actually pushed waves. Granted, you were learning the new Sona at that point in time, but we've definitely accidentally pushed waves. It's been level 2, and a big wave went in the tower. And the enemy might lose half the wave, a full wave, whatever. That's fine, but they can still turn it around at level 3 potentially.
They get that huge XP spike, and then they're slightly up until the waves even out.
If you're playing Sona, let's say worst case scenario. Here's my question. Worst case scenario, you've pushed. You don't have ADC that understands wave manipulation. You've accidentally pushed the wave. What do you do at level 3 when Thresh has hit level 3 at the same time as you because of the big XP boost? Are you still playing aggressive, or are you taking that moment by moment and really trying to feel the enemy laner out? This is probably more of a general support tip than it is a Sona tip.
Right. You really want to feel your enemy out. Usually your level 1 is your biggest indication on what kind of lane they are. Either they're going to be really passive, or they're going to try to fight back, and it kind of tells you what kind of mentality they have in the bot lane. I like to poke a lot under tower, so I shove it to tower generally and poke under the tower as Sona, so that even though they're level 2 and under that tower, they're losing health. But yeah, as level 3, when you're going against an all-in champ, it's really, every one of them hits a huge spike at level 3, Leona, Thresh, and you just want to be really careful about your positioning. And as Sona, you actually want them to go on your ADC, because as a level 3 Sona, you have a lot more damage potential than your ADC actually does. So you can shield them, and you can attack their ADC, and that's usually enough to get them off of your ADC, and then you can follow up and kind of kite them down the lane. But you never want to be, as Sona, you don't want to be that front liner. And that sounds a little counterintuitive to the support role, but that's how you can best manage her damage output and manage keeping your ADC alive.
Okay, and if we're playing, so we understand based on your description that Sona is a level, is a Q monster, a poke monster. She's really taking people out in the lane. Again, devil's advocate, worst case scenario. How can you turn Sona around to be? She used to be able, you could max W and turn into a heal bot. Can new Sona do the same thing? Have you had to experience that? I'm trying to give listeners a all-rounded experience with Sona. What can they expect?
I can see you maxing Q no problem if you guys are like dominating the lane, but if you're starting to fall behind or your AD carry is really behind, do you switch to maxing Q? And is it still the usual?
W.
Yeah, maxing W. Is it still the max Q W E if you're winning lane?
I don't max. I don't take a single point in E until level
Okay.
8. So levels 1 through 4, you have equal on every skill, and then usually I stop leveling up heal until level 10 again. After I put a point in my ult, and then I put another point in Q, and then I get my my E. But you can if you're having a really hard time. Sometimes you're going to get ADCs that don't follow up with your poking, or who are constantly out of position, and it puts you in a really bad spot, and you have to be able to react and adjust to them. You can't just expect everyone to adjust to your play style. So then that 5th point, instead of putting it in Q, you can put it in W and get that extra shield. And the way that you want to play, this is the biggest difference in lane for Sona from before to now. When you take your when you are going to heal, unless your AD carry is full health or you are full health, you don't want to proactively heal. It now becomes like a Janna shield. Everything should be reactive, because you want to be able to, then you get the heal and you get the shield. So instead of just healing and then the shield goes away and then you're poked down, now you see them throw out a skill, you shield, that did no damage to you, and on top of that you're giving a heal. So you actually end up even higher, even better off in the trade than you would have if you were just heal botting Sona. So it's actually
more effective
stronger.
health that way. Yeah.
Right. It's stronger. Her heal is actually stronger than it used to be, just in terms of the effective health that you're giving.
Okay. Yeah. I see where you're going with that. It's just it's different than how I've ever had to play against a Sona. I've never been a big Sona person. I'm definitely a aggressive support main, and Sona's not as aggressive as I would like because she's too squishy. You make one mistake and you can definitely pay for it by eating a Thresh hook, a Leona E, whatever it may be. That's the problem I never liked about her, is as aggressive as you have to play. If you fuck up, you're dead.
That's it though. There are a lot of times where if you're really aggressive on Sona, and I'm not sure how well that'll translate into current one, but before, if you were able to play really aggressive with Sona and they weren't able to get that, you could really, really punish the hell out of somebody and completely zone them out. And then they're so worried about the fact that you're just Q chunking them for the rest of the laning phase. It gives your AD carry basically free reign to last hit the entire time.
The reason I like Sona is she's a really great solo queue support. Like you can't really go wrong with her if you're good at her. Now, honestly, what I suggest if you're going to play Sona is go ahead and go into normal games and try the Runes of Mastery, as I told you, and you're going to feed a lot. And you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to get out of position, and you're going to think you have more damage than you do, or you're going to think you have less damage than you do, and you just practice it. Because once you're good with her, and again, I have like 400 some or more games by now on her. I have 200 already this season, so I have a lot of experience with the positioning, so that I know where my limits are, and I know how to poke and when not to poke and when to shield and things like that. But if you go in and you practice her, then you're going to get that feel for her. And once you understand how Sona works and you're good with her, you can 1v2 lanes, especially if you're taking offensive runes and masteries. You can own that lane, and your AD carry can farm all day. Even if you don't get kills, let's say you don't get kills, if you're a really good Sona, your ADC shouldn't be dying, because you should have them poked enough that they can't all in you, and you can be healing them the whole time. And she's so versatile, where you can go the full offensive poke route, and then if your ADC's playing like a little bitch, then you can start shielding him and healing him, and you can just keep your team alive. That it offers such a tremendous amount of versatility for your team.
Don't be a little bitch.
Yeah,
he was great. He was following up with me.
Don't be a little bitch.
Got hit by one too many Thresh hooks, but Sona's so OP.
We crushed lane. I mean, and I did. We were against the Thresh with, I think we were against like Thresh Lucian.
Yep.
As Sona Kate, and they couldn't deal with the poke at all. And if either one of us got pulled, you would think that it would just be a done lane. but if you know how to position and how to switch your focus. Now, if he got hooked, then you have to focus Lucian because you have to get him out of that fight before he does his damage.
That's one thing I want to bring up is what matchups do you feel like Sona excels in right now against the supports of today's meta, like Thresh, Janna,
If you say all of them, I'm kicking you off the podcast.
No, she does. She has a rough time against some. My favorite matchups for her are actually against Thresh and against Janna. And Janna's really big right now, and she's such a good counter because when you Q, you pop her shield. Like, it's done. You don't even have to do anything else. And then that shield, that AD bonus is useless. Then your ADC can start punching away at her. Usually she's so squishy. So Janna's so squishy that you can ult and burst her down and she can't ult you away. So I feel that she's a really good counter for Janna. She has move speed so she can get your team back into fights later when Janna's trying to run everybody away with her passive. So she's really strong against Janna. I've never had a problem with that lane. And Thresh, you have enough with your shield, you have enough sustain to make it through his poke. And your poke, because he has to get in such close range for the flay, and that's typically what they try to open up with, you can just smack him in the face and they just run away. And you have in Thresh, sometimes I'll take my E early just because you want to be able to move yourself and your ADC away. If he's running at you with Mobies, then you want to be able to get away from his flay. But in general, it's not really a hard matchup. I have a really hard time, not a really hard time, but Nami's pretty difficult for her because her heal early outscales yours. Once you hit around like level 5, as you go up, you start outscaling her. Your ult is more important than hers. Your heal will actually do more than hers, but she's still really hard the first few levels of laning, so she can just dominate the lane on you. Karma, if she ever comes back, is pretty difficult for you because her poke and her Q does more damage than yours does. It's just obnoxious. And then Fiddle is just a pain in the ass for any caster that you have in bot lane just because of the silence. So,
to kind of shift this conversation a little bit, I read something today on our League of Legends. I think it was like a 17-hour old post at like 2:00 in the afternoon. But
you're not supposed to be reading Reddit.
Yeah, I know I shouldn't be. Please remind me not to read Reddit. But I kind of
I forgot that Punch is your.
He's my moral compass.
Yeah, your keeper.
He's failing you.
Yeah.
I'll tweet you right now.
Thank you. But I was reading a thread about a guy who said that Rumble is super OP, and he had talked about it, said, do you want a free trip to Diamond? Play Rumble, right? So he comes back with his follow-up post after Worlds and shows his, 20 games in a row of Rumble wins. And he's like, Rumble's super OP, Rumble this and that. And there was a good post, and there was actually a good reply for somebody saying, I don't think it's Rumble that can carry anybody. Well, what it was is somebody posted there are two types of Rumble players. Players who understand the ultimate and Rumble players who do not understand the ultimate.
Right.
And somebody followed up. He goes, yeah, I don't think it's actually Rumble that's carrying this guy. While it is, it's more that he found somebody that adheres to his play style. Now, I'm using this as to a segue with Days. Days, you found Sona, and Sona really did carry you from whatever rank you started at to Platinum back before she got reworked because you really understood how Sona played. She really worked with your play style, and she allowed you to adapt based on the situation. Rumble for this person could have been the same way, and now I'll take that to me. Annie was the same way for me because it allowed me to play very aggressive, I understood the champion. I'm all in at level 2. I understand how to be all in. I understand how to engage. I understand how to disengage, all this stuff. And the champion just resonated with me. And I think there's a lot of champions out there for people that if they found their niche, they looked at, they said, this is what I like to do. They can find a champion that fits
way
their
better.
niche.
Yeah, this is not Sona's not a champion for everybody. There's a lot of intricacies on her that are just honestly they're very frustrating to play, and you have to have a really thick skin. She's one of those champions that you can hit 4-man ultimates all day long, like every single time you ult, and if you miss one ult and you lose that team fight, one, you're going to be called every terrible name you've ever heard in League of Legends before. Your teammates would be all over you. But 2, it does cost you games. You have to be very comfortable with when to engage, how to engage, and using your ultimate properly. And if you miss it, like it's a team fight losing instant.
That's like I played my last ranked game that I needed to play of the season because I decided not to push for diamond. For all of those who remember listening last year on this time, I was pushing really hard for platinum. This year I didn't really play as much. I didn't push for diamond, so you didn't hear any of that. But today I played a last ranked game that I needed to play to stay in platinum this season, and I played Oriana. And speaking of game-changing ultimates, I actually picked her into a team that didn't need the game-changing ultimate, but was just icing on the cake to have Oriana. Mm-hmm. We had Leona, Warwick, Mundo, and Caitlyn. Like, you don't need Oriana in that team to turn it around.
But if you end up, if anybody lands one thing, you follow up with the Wombo, and it's just this ever-rolling...
That's why I picked her.
Combination.
I walked out of lane 0-1 and 0 down 50 CS. It was like 50 to 100 CS, but my ultimate was still there the entire time. And I think, Sona really does work the same way in the bottom lane is what I'm getting at, where you could walk in a lane 0-1 and 0 and your 80 carry could be down, we'll say 20 CS, because really if it's down more than that, you really are getting fucked. But her ultimate is a game changer, and so is the extra AD bonus with her Q. So I would say playing her to understand that she can both be a bully and a great literal support for your team. It needs to be taken into consideration when playing champions like that.
Yeah, she's great. I actually, when I was in bronze and playing Sona, I actually started out on her really, really passively, and I was in bronze for quite a long time. So I've played her both ways, and the advice I'm giving today isn't the only way to play Sona. Like, you can be on a ranked 5s team and play her and just build her pure support and not be aggressive on her. I don't feel that's the optimal way to play her, but you can. I'm just giving my advice. Most of our player base is under plat, and personally, I still use it in plat, and it works tremendously well. I'm just giving you my suggestions on how to climb out of an elo as Sona. And you have to adjust your team all the time. But if you have the ability to, you have to be able to carry your team. Like, even if you're a support, you can, if you want, you can play whatever you want, and you can play in the most passive way possible and hope that you get really good teammates. And that's absolutely possible. But that play style is not going to be nearly as effective in solo queue as it is in ranked 5s.
You're taking the game out of your own hands.
Right. And we're going to talk more about that on Wednesday. Like, we have a really cool article to show everybody about setting limitations on yourselves because of how you think the game should be played as opposed to what's actually going to help you win. But it really does. Like, at some point, you just have to take your own fate into your hands and be like, okay, I know I'm Sona, but I chunk like hell, and I'm going to just take them out of the lane. And especially in lower elos, they're not going back. They don't know, okay, I'm really low health, I'm going to go back. You can just zone them all day, and for some reason, they'll just stand at that tower because they think that's what they have to do.
Well, it's also kind of that running joke we used to have where Adam used to give me shit because every time I was winning on Sona, I'd buy a chalice. First buy, I'd like say screw it to the sight stone. I'd pick up some extra wards or whatever. But like, if you can get that edge early, and you have infinite mana to keep smacking the shit out of people, you won your lane, and then you can just move on to still have mana in dragon fights or anything like that. And I'm not saying that works for everybody, but if you can find things that work for the style that you play, I like to play every character I play really, really aggressive. So
it's so funny, this entire show. I think Punch is probably the only person Punch and Declawed are the only people in this show that will adapt to play styles, but not Declawed so much. Declawed, can, but he doesn't normally adapt. But Punch is like the quintessential guy who adapts to everything. Because I remember in our Reg 5s, like Urtai's, he's really fun to play with. He's great, but he's, he can be a fairly passive support. And I remember you guys.
He's been better than that, just to be fair.
What's that?
He'll be mad if I don't stand up for him here. So he's been a lot better at
okay. I haven't played with him. That's why I said, like, I haven't played with the guy. But when we first started, we'll say this, when I very, very, very first started playing the ranked team with this guy, super passive support and Punch and them. We have a fantastic bottom lane that could have done just leaps and bounds better, and they did eventually. But you're playing with the person that plays the game, and they found what they worked for them. So as you listen to the podcast and you're working through it, just try to figure that out for yourself.
Hey, I got another topic kind of out of left field on Sona, and that is, whenever Riot changes a support or introduces a new support, sometimes it turns out the support is better as a full AP build. Is that the case for Sona here? Could you take Sona mid like you would see Karma mid? Or
I used to play her mid before her rework. I'm not gonna lie, and she was pretty good. I had a lot of success with her. She's probably better in that situation now because they've changed a lot about her, and her shield will actually help her a lot. I don't think that that's where she really shines, but she definitely can be played there. The nerf on Lichbane actually hurt her mid a little bit. I'm not sure that anyone's ever heard anyone say Sona mid was hurt on anything before, but
Right.
the Lichbane nerf did hurt her mid a little bit. And I do think that you could play it, and honestly, if I get stuck mid, there's a good chance that I would play it. But I still build Lichbane on her in support if I'm wicked ahead. Like on the game where I was 22-1 and 27, there's literally no reason for me to build defensive items when my team is up 35-15. And you just have to. I had a locket first. I built my Frost Queen and then my locket, and then I was in the process of building a Lichbane. And you can build AP on her. It makes her shield stupid. It makes her heal stupid. It makes her poke stupid. It makes her ult stupid. Like, there's nothing about her that it doesn't make absurd. You just have to be cognizant of what you're doing and why. There's no reason. If you're not really far ahead, you shouldn't build her full AP. You want to build Locket. You want to build Mikhail's is great on her because of all the mana regen. It's just absurd. And then Mikhail's as an item itself is just a crazy efficient and effective buy.
It allows you to poke them under turret, and then when they're low enough, you can just go in and have people smack somebody and then get them out of there if they get CC'd or something.
Right, and because her Q range extends with 2 enemies nearby, you get such a crazy range out of it that people don't expect it, and people don't expect you to hit hard. Like that game I played with Punch, like they thought they were completely safe sitting under tower, and there's that one little spot near tower that you can stand and auto attack people, and I stood there and queued, and she was behind her tower and she died. And Punch is just like, okay.
Good job.
Sona sort of falls into that same like workable mid character that is a character like Morgana, where they can definitely succeed in mid, but they're great out of the bot lane, and if you can get AP on them, it's just icing on the cake for the amount of utility that they're bringing to the team. So why not take a champion that can just 100-0 somebody in mid, and then if you get ahead in bot lane, you have Sona that's still doing damage or bringing utility or whatever.
Her problem with going mid is that she has 0 wave clear. She has, you can be pushed under tower all day. She has 0 wave clear. And she does near the end, like
she has super poke. That's the thing.
Right, she has crazy
super poke.
Rolling
super
people
poke
out
is
of there.
great until you're up against somebody like Zed who can technically push the wave without even being there.
Oh no, you're
still
dead if you
last
play
hit.
against Zed. Let's
right,
like
or Syndra who can just shove the wave. Like there are a lot of the champions that go mid lane can just shove you under tower without being within range, or you have to literally walk into their minions to Q them, and then you're just going to get hit by the minions and lose your health that way. And then her other problem is like around like 30-35 minutes, she starts bursting people down unexpectedly. But before then, I mean, you're really mid lane. Most of the champions you get out of there are burst mages. You don't have a lot of sustained damage, which is what she is. She's sustained poke. So until that 30-35 minutes, you're kind of leaving an opening in your team.
Well, and that, again, with all the burst mages that are currently running around for short little engages, it's better to have something like that than somebody who's sustaining out, unless for some reason your team has an ungodly amount of tanks and you don't need to burst somebody down instantly. But
yeah, she's just so much more effective bot. If I had to play mid, I'd probably play her and Zyra because that's just what I play. And they're the champs I'm comfortable on.
It's like
but
Dom mid, he's like Lulu, Morgana.
Right,
Like,
exactly. When you're comfortable with something, it's just kind of what you go to. But she's definitely a lot more effective bot.
I tell you what, this Sona discussion has been riveting. I enjoy Sona discussion as much as any other person, but this sound that's about to happen means we're moving on the listener questions, baby.
I drove Adam to drink.
it's not that hard to do.
Please.
He's just looking for an excuse.
Yeah.
Punch
if anything, you enabled him.
You enabled me to drink. That's what it was. So, you know what? I actually learned quite a bit about Sona tonight, which I'm not going to say I didn't expect to, but I did expect to learn as much as I did, so I'm glad that I had days to talk about this. Because
part of the problem is that every time we play in normals where I'm fucking around and trying to see what I can get away with. And Adam's, literally, we had a conversation where I was like, you don't think I actually play like that in ranked, do you? And he's like, well, that's all I've ever seen you play. So my response was, how would I ever get to plat like that? And
that's what I want to know. I was like, that's what I wanted to know. How did you make it to plat by making those mistakes?
Yeah, but it's one of those things that, like, that's how I learn. I'll go into normals and I'll push the bounds and see what I can get away with and see how much damage I can do. So that's what I
the best time to do it anyway, rather than trying something
Shira, I
completely
think
out of
you
left
do
field.
it too. You're like, I'm going to try this, and then you go fuck her.
I do too, trust me. Like, but
our normal games after shows are shit shows. Like, if you want to see some Bronze 5
tonight.
play, just spectate us after our podcast.
We do some really dumb stuff. Like, it's like pre Scion changes. I would play like
Scion?
just full AD
that.
Scion out of the jungle and get extremely fed.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's Scion, like, not really that easy to carry the game when you're the only person fed. You stole everybody's kills, and they stun you and you die before you can get anything out of your lifesteal on your ult or former ult or whatever.
Let's talk about snowballing, because there's actually a question that came into the podcast about snowballing. So Richard writes, Darius is my nemesis.
Okay.
Excuse me. Darius is my nemesis. I consistently lose to him in the top lane. What are some strategies and playstyles that can be used to avoid letting him and other high-damage early snowball tanky champions get out of control? We're all smiling for those of you who aren't watching watching the video. Chira, I know you want to go for it. I can see your eyes.
So I love playing against Darius, especially like really aggressive Dariuses that are really over aggressive, and I actually kind of like to let them hit me a couple times early, just so they think that they're going to be able to pull stuff off, then dodge a Q later and turn around and smack them. When you're playing against Darius, you just really need to know that the windows to attack him are when his Q's down and to get out of there until you can build some health. Health is huge against Darius. Early armor is good too, but as soon as he gets his ult for the true damage, if you can get, like, if you're playing a tanky champion, and there's a ton in top lane that you can choose from, and this would be much easier if I knew the champions that you like to play going into the Darius matchups. There are people like Nidalee, Jace, a bunch of champions that have ranged poke that will absolutely just force Darius out. And if Darius is pushing, you can just have your jungler come up and he's dead to rights. Darius is really, really easy to gank. And not only is it easy to gank, but if he's queuing in the middle of a wave, he's automatically pushing you to the turret. So as long as you know where their jungler's at and that their jungler isn't around, it's going to be really hard for him to kill you. But I like playing champions that can do similar burst damage to him, but build tanky. So I'm going to go and say, like, my go-to into like a Darius is somebody like Olaf, who I can just
I knew you were going to say that.
straight out trade him while building health, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Here's the great thing about Darius is against any melee champion, almost any melee champion, Darius wins.
Yeah, he has a huge advantage just with the way his kit synergizes.
Because he has bleed damage. If Darius smacks you with a Q, it doesn't push the wave. You're taking bleed damage every time he hits you with an ability. You take more bleed damage. So that's why he's naturally winning against you. However, if you are playing into a Darius because the Darius counter picked you or picked into you, or any champion like this, they picked into you, you need to let yourself go down 20 CS. Now, that's not to say you don't try to get CS and you don't try to, make up that 20 CS gap. But that 20 CS rule that we're going to talk about is that you cannot get 20 of, your first 20 CS, for example. And that sucks. Or you get one here and you lose two. For every one you get, you lose two.
Don't get tilted because of it.
But don't get tilted. I'll give you a good example. I played 80 Corki played into my Orianna today. I was down 50 CS when my tower died. But I didn't get tilted. I said, I can do this. In my head, whatever champion I play, I say I can do this. I can make this play. I can move here. I'm going to lose this because I'm going to make up for this. Now all these thises mean that if you're playing a champion like Maokai, I can teleport into a dragon fight, and I can turn it around because I can drop my ultimate and stop 15% of the damage. Now, I'm not doing anything but stopping that, but that could be enough to turn around the fight. I am playing Mundo. I am a meat shield at level 6. I just eat damage. I'm playing Irelia. I'm level 7, and I'm teleporting in there. Like, when you're thinking top lane against any of these people, basically you have to think, what can I do to make up for the difference that I lost? And that's making the plays that matter at the times that matter. And normally those are dragon fights or ganks in the bottom or mid lane. So,
and for the most part, even a Darius that gets slightly ahead on CS early, he kind of falls off over the length of the game anyway, as long as he just doesn't get so fed where he murders you in the mid game. Like, a Darius that goes equal to you or is slightly ahead of you during the entirety of the early and mid game won't transition as well into late game as somebody like Maokai. It's kind of the same.
Well, he can't kill a Maokai. Here's the thing: like, you get into a team fight at level 16, you both are level 16, and you get into a 1v1 duel. More than likely, Darius isn't going to beat you because Darius had, went for that Tiamat, went for that Brutalizer, went for whatever, and then had to go defensive. But Maokai, who's doing percentage of life and doing magic damage to the other person,
not only that, he's keeping Darius from getting to the carry to start just jumping in the air and smashing
I'm assuming
anyway.
One-on-one duel, just for example. Like, a Darius is probably going to win a one-on-one duel, but you're going to last long enough that it doesn't matter. Now, if you took that one-on-one and you moved it to the middle of a team fight where it's one-on-one, you win because, like you were about to say, you have just stopped that Darius from doing anything. So
he's not going to do what he wants to do to your team if you can,
which is
if you have a champion that can
and blow up.
And I'm going to actually say that Riven is another champion that kind of falls into that same thing where she has such...
It's super skill.
And that's fine that it's a skill cap, but I'm saying like a good Riven who knows that she can all in you at level 3, it is sometimes just completely worth it to be like, I know Riven can kill me, I'm not going to let her kill me, and sure, she's going to farm or whatever. That's completely cool. I'm going to suck up my ego and just let her beat me out early because if I try to fight her, she's going to get a kill, and then it's going to make it way easier for her to just come back and get another kill once she builds that Brutalizer or something else. There are some times where you just need to concede at certain points in the game that you are going to not be able to 1v1 against a certain champion because of power spikes, like always. And you need to play around that. Darius is he before his nerfs right after he came out, he was that champ that if you got into melee with him and he was able to trade with a Q, he was still going to be doing damage to you immediately after the trade was over. So it was really, really hard to match up against him. And they changed it a couple things. They made certain things cost slightly more mana. They reduced his ability to do some damage in certain aspects. But if you're smart in the way that you're positioning, if you're not getting hit by Qs, if you know that he's walking straight towards you to grab you with his E, and it's not, once you played against Darius enough, it's pretty easy to know, oh, he's walking towards me, he's probably going to try and grab me. If you can not get hit by those or force him to miss that and miss it into a Q, turn around, smack him, and get the hell out of there. There are certain little windows where he's going to be way more vulnerable.
I used to say that Aurelia was my number one nemesis because a good Aurelia knew how to beat a Darius because they let themselves get down 15 CS. I think it's like another rule. Maybe you guys don't agree with me, but I kind of think of like the I am behind, how do I play this? It's like there's like a 20 CS rule where you can let yourself drop about 20 CS or so as long as you're playing smart. Now, it's not as good as like the 3
I think
attack
that you
rule,
can
but
do more than that. Like, okay, so the thing is, first of all, if you're behind and you're building damage, you're fucking up.
You're wrong.
Yep.
You're doing it wrong.
You're just being really stupid and you're making a really bad decision. So build tanky because if worst case scenario, you become a meat shield for your team.
The best
except for a few
I
champions. There are a few champions you can't do that on.
You do need to say this: if you're following a guide that tells you to build that Trinity Force first, and you're losing and still following that guide, you're doing it wrong. You need to stop following the guide and start building damage.
Thinking for yourself. Because you're never going to finish those items in time to kill anybody. And then you're going to be so squishy that they're just going to keep all-inning you and keep getting further ahead. And you're going to do nothing for your team. At least if you build tanky, then you can go ahead and you can be a meat shield for your team. You can disrupt. You can body block. There's so much more that you can do. Now, if you're playing Riven or someone like that that's based off of damage, Tryndamere, those are really hard champions to then you make it back up by split pushing or trying to CS or take jungle. So there are certain champions that you can't just go and build straight tank on.
But there are some defensive items you can build with those champions that allow you
Hex
to
Drinker or
absolutely, yeah. But as far
Ninja
as
Tabby
if you're playing,
early, that type of thing.
right?
the golden rule, at least coming from like into this game from a Dota background back in the day, was if you're behind, build tanky. If you're ahead, snowball your advantage by building more damage.
Exactly, and I think that goes for any lane. Well, for the most part.
Unless you're AD carry, don't build defensive.
Right, don't just build full tank.
Right, because your job
But
isn't
still,
to.
even then, you still want to be able to adjust your. You might want to get a defensive item earlier. So if you're dying and you need that Banshee's Veil as ADC, you may need to buy it a little bit earlier than you normally would have. But yeah, as ADC, you still want to go offensive. But the point of that is that you need to be able to adjust your build to where you stand on your team.
And instead of looking at it like, oh, hey, I'm losing the lane or something like that, if he kills you early and he doesn't go back and you can't buy anything, not only does he have a gold advantage because he murdered you, he's going to have a level advantage because he sat there and he's getting more XP. Therefore, his abilities are going to get harder because his Q hits really, really hard. You have to just basically make the conscious decision of, I'm going to let you win this lane for the next however long until I can beat you.
Right.
Because I'm going to either outscale you or I'm going to be way more beneficial to my team than a tank that's going to be trying to dive the back line or doesn't really provide that much CC, or that your damage is going to be irrelevant to the giant amount of health that I'm going to build later. So have fun killing me then.
And work with your team. Like, how often do you see those people who went like 5-0 in lane? They get really cocky and then they just sit up in lane and they just keep farming their freaking lane the whole time, and you're down there 5v4ing their team.
I like how you brought up experience, sure, because I think it's that's something that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to. The 20 CS rule works, assuming that you're keeping up an experience.
Right.
Because there are a lot of champions that are going to outscale Darius, as we talked about, and that's only going to come through levels. I think a good example of this is from way back in Season 2, where I think Rumble was like the go-to counter against Aurelia, because Aurelia was really strong right now as people were picking Rumble. Well, the thing was, you could still beat Rumble as Aurelia. It just took levels, and it took some magic resistance. But you got to get those levels. The experience is important.
Well, and
people overlook experience so much in this game. So much.
It's the same thing where, like, if somebody can kill you and they're at like 75% health and they're smacking your turret and you have a huge minion wave pushing against you at the turret, and you're like, oh, I can go kill him, but he kills you in the meantime, and you lose out all the experience that turret's just eating up. You're missing out on all that gold that you could get otherwise. You lost that trade terribly. Doesn't matter if you got the kill. Like, that experience isn't something that you can get back anytime soon. You have to go and wait for another wave to spawn before, like another comparable wave of units to spawn.
It is right. Today's date is 10/27. On 10/25, there was Battle Arena game number 2, Bronze Bootcamp game number 2. A Jax was level 10 to Vi's level 15 in that game. And this Vi just went off. You can imagine, because she was just counter ganking so well, counter jungling so well. But like, all that Jax was doing at level 10 was trying to gank to make up for his lack of experience and make up for his lack of jungling. And he was doing it wrong. He needed to spend time in the jungle, but he didn't look at his levels. He didn't look at that I was 5 levels down, so I shouldn't be trying to force fights. I shouldn't be trying to counterjump. I should be sitting in my jungle. I should be trying to gain levels. I should be farming free. I should be farming free lanes. There's always, at that point, if it's 10 to 15, okay, I'm sorry, but towers are down, dragons are dead. You need to be trying to make up that experience somewhere, and hope to God that all you can do is hope to God that your team isn't feeding.
And that comes down to like map awareness as well. How many times have one of us, like, we feel like we're really strong, we go into a fight and we lose that fight and we're like, holy shit, they were 2 levels ahead of us. Why did we even go in and try that? Levels make such a huge difference. And I mean, for certain characters, a level might mean the same as much as getting a finished item.
Right.
Because their
Especially
damage is going up from
items.
Right.
That's
skills.
part,
at level 6.
That's part of what made Renekton so strong at the height of the Renekton bot, was that not only could he kill you in lane, but he could kill you under your own tower And anytime you get a kill under the enemy tower, even if you go 1 for 1, you're up such a huge amount. So, and usually you could go in, kill them, and get out. So then you're up almost like a kill and a half at that point because of the experience and the gold that they lost.
Especially if there's a big wave there and they completely miss out on that XP because you're just getting even further ahead of that point. There is, it comes down to that. It comes back to that. If you're behind, build tanky. If you're ahead, build some damage. How many times also has somebody, like, they find, like, say you're playing Aurelia, you're losing lane and you build that T-Force. I know that I've been like, oh, I just finished my T-Force, I can go kill them now. Not always what'll happen. Just finishing that extra damage might give you the false sense of security to be like, oh, hey, I can take them 1v1 now. And say you can't, and you don't know that you can't 1v1 them until you die. You just got yourself even more behind in a bad situation.
Congratulations, you finished the T-Force. What'd you do? Fed that gold.
I had a friend who was playing, he's Diamond, and he messaged me. He was playing against Robert X. Lee, so I spec'd his game. And they had this big jungle fight. And each team came out of this level 1 fight with 3 kills. And my friend had 3 kills in the top lane, and their Vayne or something had 3 kills in the bot lane. And what single-handedly won them that game is that my friend actually thought that the enemy team, their top laner, just rage quit and DC'd. Because he was level 1, and he's like, okay, there's no one in lane, so he just pushed it to lane. And that his enemy was sitting in a diamond game, was just standing at tower waiting for the wave to come to them. And he just stood there and just waited the whole time for the wave to come. And he missed a ton of XP, and he missed a ton of gold, but he didn't feed anymore. And my friend couldn't kill him at all after that point because he just stayed safe under tower. He got jungle ganks when he needed to. And the whole time, his bot lane, who's behind kills, did the exact opposite and tried to fight the whole time. Mm-hmm. They kept feeding bot lane, and they kept feeding and giving XP and giving items. And at near the mid and end of that game, even though he was so fed at that level 1, he couldn't snowball off of it because the other guy played safe. And to say that to someone and just be like, just stay at your tower and don't move until the wave pushes to you is really hard to do. And that takes a lot of self-discipline and confidence in yourself. But sometimes it is just the best option.
That's why 2v1s are so hard to play into, and something that took me so long to learn how to play. Where I just gave up 50 CS over the course of 10 minutes. Holy shit, what do I do with myself?
It wears on you mentally.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to just, it's like picking scrapings. It's like being, this is I'm sorry guys, but it's like being homeless. You're picking every little thing up you can get. You're just trying to survive, right? I'm dumpster diving for that 1 CS. It's saying I picked the 1 CS, and if I can't get it, I'm walked away from the tower, so I'm not dying. The number one thing that anybody ever told me starting to play this game is do not die. Mm-hmm. When I played Dota, they said if you're going to die, it's better for you to be down 2 levels and go back to base and come back than to die and feed that gold to that enemy. Now, Dota is an extreme example because even 300 gold can shift the game. Because
a support can carry the shit out of that game by getting fed.
But that's where I started.
In Dota, you lose gold.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. That's more than the reason. They said you could be, you could have 200 gold on you, but if you die, you lose the 200 gold or whatever it was. It's been forever since I played Warcraft. But yes, you died, you lost gold. But same League of Legends, you don't lose gold, but you do because you're not lane getting gold anymore. You're not lane getting levels.
Not getting XP. You're not able. If you're dead, you're not able to help your team if something happens.
Swallow your ego. I think the whole point of this conversation is swallow your ego.
And it's really hard, and you find all these reasons to justify why you died and how it was okay and worth and all that stuff. But you know what? It's not. And at the end of the day,
it's a childish mindset to think that if you go 1-1 in a trade in the middle of the lane,
1-1 is never worth it. It's just not. You need to. I mean, unless you kill their ADC and your support dies or something.
Right. I won't say it's never worth it, but for the majority of the time
tower,
it is.
Right.
I'll say it's not, or it is worth it if you both have teleport and you both die before a big team fight breaks out. Obviously, you can never account for that.
Right.
But again, I hate blanket.
There are
statements, so-
circumstances that make it, or if you kill like the Renekton thing where you can kill them under tower and they lose a whole wave of minions and things like that, it can technically be worth it. But at the end of the day, you're still giving them gold. Maybe that's enough to get them to snowball. You know, you just have to. I know I said that phrase that you hate. I did it just for you.
Thank you.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, you won't notice the difference until you stop dying. Like, you're not going to believe us until you take a game and you just try to stop dying. And I had someone message me on League the other day that was like, you know, I'm really starting to believe you guys because I was like 8-2 and 3, and I just decided not to die the rest of the game. And he ended up going like 14-4 or whatever and winning.
Are you saying
because
you're right?
Right, because he was one of those people that was like, no matter how hard I carry, I can't do it. You know, I can't win games. Like I get these great scores, and just stop dying. Like, if you look at my match history, out of the last 20 games, if I had a game where I died more than 5 times, it was a loss.
Well, there was also a huge statistic a long time ago that the people who maximize their kills to deaths, the people who die less win more games. That's just
right.
That is how it works. You know, you're giving less gold, you're keeping up an XP. It doesn't matter if you go 15-10. That's not that great of a score. Like, it's much better to go 6-1 or 6-0. Yeah, I definitely have to swallow your pride.
This entire conversation actually leads into, and I'm going to actually stop the podcast literally because this leads perfectly into Wednesday's episode.
Yep.
Because Wednesday, we're going to talk about playing to win. We're going to talk about the scrub mentality. We're going to talk about the people who wrote in this podcast and say, no matter what I do, I still lose this game. No matter how many times I win, I still lose this game. No matter,
you're not playing the right game.
Right.
We have a whole episode dedicated to it. We were going to cram it in this one, and we decided to wait because it's that important.
Right. So if you guys want to hear the rest of this conversation, it's not that we're cutting the conversation off early. It's that there's another hour left of the conversation, and we're going to bring it right back into Wednesday. So if you want to hear how to win, play to win, the scrub mentality, why we think you're probably a scrub, no offense taken, please, but everybody that plays this game is a scrub.
And we can be guilty of it just as much.
Jared called me out for it earlier, 100%, and he's right. I will go back to the scrub mentality in top lane, and I'll say that motherfucker got this cheap that. If it wasn't for this 80 ping, 110 ping, this and that, I've said it. I've definitely said it. I've been there. Trust me. But at the end of the day, I had the scrub mentality. So we're going to talk about that on Wednesday. With that said, guys, go check out the. You know what? I just feel like that's. Hold on, everyone, take a breath. Okay, I needed to cleanse the palate, take a breath. Everybody, clean the air. Fantastic episode tonight, guys. I'm very proud of every one of you. With that said, go check out Facebook.com/T-Force Podcast. Please enter the Gatherer's Granola giveaway. Gatherer's Granola is fantastic. We love them to death. Alessandro,
you're super person. Missing out if you don't enter into this competition. Just because if you win, you get delicious snacks.
Oh my god, this granola is so good.
Is it too late for me to vote to kick myself out so I can enter this contest?
Yes, you are part of the.
You know what's gonna happen? He's gonna leave the show for like a couple weeks, enter the contest, and be like, "Can I come back?" And it's
right.
I'm just gonna disappear.
But you can do that as long as you send all the granola to me, and then I'll make that acceptable.
That's collusion. We can't
do it. That's right. Guys, please go enter that contest. There's no skin off of your teeth. All you're giving us is your email address, and we're not going to use it we're not selling it off. We're not doing none of that stuff. So go sign up.
Adam might send you love notes, though.
I will.
He might send you just erotic.
If you signed up for it, you will get one love note from me that says thank you for joining. Thank you for doing it. I swear to God, you're going to get that. But no, that's a promise. That's a promise. You're going to get a love note from me. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to address you personally. Hey, baby, how you doing? On tonight's Trinity Force podcast. Guys, thank you so much for watching episode number 205 of the Trinity Force podcast. We will see you all on Wednesday for episode number 200. This was 206.
This is 206.
Sorry. We'll see episode number 207 on Wednesday. That's it, guys. We'll see you all next week. Peace.
See ya.
See ya.